The African savannah appears endless beneath the morning sun. Dry grass bends with the wind. Acacia trees stand isolated across the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, zebras move toward water, while vultures circle high above the plains. But beneath this immense landscape, a much smaller story is beginning. Hid among the roots of a fallen tree, a female honey badger is searching for shelter. She is pregnant, her movements are slower than usual, but her powerful front claws continue tearing through the hardened soil. Honey badgers are among Africa's most determined diggers. Their bodies are compact, their limbs powerful, and their claws perfectly suited for opening burrows or reaching prey hidden underground. Today, however, she is not digging for food. She is preparing a nursery. For several nights she has inspected abandoned burrows, termite mounds, and patches of soft soil. Instinct tells her that the place must be protected from heat, rain, and predators. Finally, she chooses a secluded area beneath thick vegetation. She begins digging. Hours later, a narrow tunnel leads into a small underground chamber. Above her, the savannah continues as if nothing extraordinary is happening. But inside that darkness, 3 lives are about to begin. Honey badgers usually produce very small litters, commonly 1 or 2 young. 3 would be an unusual event, a rare and demanding challenge for any mother. Yet in this story, 3 tiny cubs are born, blind, fragile, and completely dependent on her. For the first days, the mother rarely moves far from the den. She curls around the newborns, keeping them warm while they nurse. Their world is tiny darkness, warmth, the smell of their mother, but the female cannot remain underground forever. Producing milk requires energy, and food in the dry season can be difficult to find. Eventually, hunger forces her outside. Under the cover of dusk, she leaves the burrow. Her nose stays close to the ground. Honey badgers rely heavily on smell while searching for food. Beetle larvae, rodents, reptiles, insects, and other small animals hidden beneath the soil can all become part of their varied diet. She digs quickly. A small meal is found, then another. But every minute spent away from the den creates risk. Back underground, something is changing. A colony of aggressive ants has been disturbed nearby. Thousands begin moving through cracks in the soil. Their trail reaches the entrance of the burrow. At first, only a few enter. Then more follow. The 3 cubs cannot escape. They are too young, too weak. Their only defense is their mother. But she is still several hundred meters away. When she finally returns, something immediately feels wrong. She stops near the entrance. The smell is different. Movement covers the soil. She rushes inside. Within moments, instinct takes control. The female grabs 1 cub carefully in her jaws and carries it away from the invaded chamber. Then she returns. She retrieves the second. Again, she disappears into the grass. She has another shelter nearby, a temporary burrow she had entered days earlier. Then she returns for the third. But this cub has been exposed for too long. The mother carries it away anyway. For hours, she remains beside all 3 in the new den. 2 continue moving. The smallest grows weaker. By the following morning, it no longer responds. The first life has been lost. There is no ceremony in the wild, no understanding of death as humans experience it. The mother simply remains close to the 2 survivors. Then hunger returns, and once again she must leave. From this moment forward, everything becomes more difficult. 2 cubs now depend entirely on her ability to find food, choose safe shelters, and recognize danger before danger recognizes them. Outside, the savannah is filled with predators. Leopards patrol the shadows. Jackals investigate abandoned burrows. Snakes move silently through the grass. Even insects can become deadly to something small enough. But the 2 surviving cubs are growing. Soon their eyes will open. Soon they will begin following their mother outside. And eventually she will have to teach them the knowledge that no animal is born possessing. Where to search, what to avoid, when to fight, and when to run. Because in the African savannah, courage alone is not enough. Survival must be learned. And for these 2 young honey badgers, their education is about to begin. Several weeks have passed since the loss of the smallest cub. Beneath the African soil, the 2 survivors are changing quickly. Their bodies are stronger now, their eyes are open. The pale stripe that will eventually stretch across their backs is becoming increasingly visible, but they are still completely dependent on their mother. Every day, the female leaves the den to search for food, and every day, she returns for a honey badger mother. Raising young is a long commitment. Unlike many small carnivores that become independent relatively quickly, honey badger cubs may remain with their mother for more than a year. During that time, survival becomes an education. At first, the lessons happen close to the burrow. One morning, the mother emerges and waits. Something moves behind her. A tiny head appears, then another. For the first time, the 2 cubs cautiously enter the enormous world above ground. Everything is unfamiliar, the brightness, the wind, the smell of dry grass, the distant calls of birds. 1 cub immediately begins investigating the soil. The other stays closer to its mother. A beetle crosses the ground. The more curious youngster follows it. The beetle disappears beneath a stone. The cub scratches furiously, throwing dirt behind itself. Nothing, its sibling approaches and begins digging beside it. Within seconds, both have forgotten what they were looking for. For them, it looks like play. But play is training. Their mother walks ahead with her nose close to the ground. Suddenly, she stops. She has detected something beneath the surface. Using her powerful front claws, she begins digging. The cubs watch. Soil flies through the air. Within moments, she exposes a small underground animal. The youngsters approach. They have just received one of their first lessons. The ground beneath their feet is not empty. It is a hidden world filled with opportunities. Over the following months, the excursions become longer. The mother leads them through grasslands, rocky areas, and patches of woodland. She investigates termite mounds. She turns over loose objects. She follows scents invisible to her young, and the cubs imitate everything, sometimes badly. One begins digging beside its mother but chooses a spot several feet away. Another thrusts its nose into a hole and quickly jumps backward when an angry insect emerges. On another afternoon, they discover a fallen branch covered with beetles. The cubs become so distracted chasing them that their mother is already several meters ahead before they notice. They hurry after her. These seemingly comical moments hide something important. Young honey badgers are learning where food can be found. Insects, larvae, small mammals, reptiles, eggs, and other available resources may become part of an opportunistic diet. But finding food is only half of their education. The savannah also contains danger. One evening, the mother suddenly freezes. The cubs stop behind her. She raises her head. Something has changed. The wind carries the scent of another animal. Without hesitation, she moves the youngsters toward thicker vegetation. They follow. Minutes later, a jackal appears in the distance. The cubs want to investigate. Their mother does not. She continues walking. It is a lesson they will need many times throughout their lives. The honey badger has a legendary reputation for fearlessness, but surviving in the wild is not about attacking everything. Knowing when to avoid confrontation can be just as important as knowing how to defend yourself. Weeks become months. The cubs grow larger. Their personalities also become clearer. One is cautious and usually stays near the mother. The other seems fascinated by everything. A moving insect becomes a target. A strange smell becomes an investigation. A hollow log becomes somewhere that absolutely must be entered once. The curious youngster follows a lizard between two rocks and becomes briefly stuck. Only after struggling backward does it escape. Its sibling watches from a safe distance. Another lesson learned, perhaps. By the next morning, the same cub is investigating another hole. Their mother remains nearby throughout this long childhood. She changes sleeping places, guides them toward feeding opportunities, and exposes them gradually to the challenges they will someday face alone. Month after month, the two youngsters become less helpless, but they are not ready for independence yet. And somewhere beyond the grass, another animal has begun using the same territory, a predator built for silence, a leopard. For now, the cubs know nothing about it. They continue following their mother through the savannah, still playing, still learning, still together. But the next lesson will be one their mother cannot protect both of them from. The dry season is beginning to loosen its grip on the savannah. Clouds gather more often in the afternoon, and the first scattered rains darken patches of earth that have been pale for months. For the two young honey badgers, the world has become much larger. They no longer remain close to the den. Now they follow their mother across wider stretches of territory, sometimes traveling considerable distances in a single night. They are stronger, faster, more confident. But confidence can be dangerous when experience has not yet caught up. The mother knows this. Her movements remain deliberate. She pauses often. She smells the air. She listens. She avoids exposed areas whenever possible. The cubs, however, are still learning. One remains naturally cautious. The other has become increasingly adventurous. Whenever something moves, the curious youngster investigates. Whenever a scent appears, it follows. Whenever the mother digs, the cub tries to dig faster. This persistence will someday help it survive. But today, it becomes a risk. The family is moving through an area where tall grass meets scattered trees. The ground is uneven, vividizing is poor. The mother is searching for food near an old termite mound, while the two cubs explore nearby. One stays close. The other follows the movement of a small bird hopping between the grass. A few steps, then a few more. It barely notices that it is moving away. What none of them can see is that another hunter is already there. A leopard. Unlike the honey badger, the leopard does not need to dig for its meal. Its greatest weapon is silence. Powerful muscles allow it to move low through vegetations with astonishing control. Its spotted coat breaks apart its outline. Even at close range, the predator can disappear against shadow and dry grass. The leopard has noticed the young badgers, but it does not rush. It waits. The mother suddenly stops digging. Her head rises. Something is wrong. Perhaps a faint sound, perhaps a scent carried by the wind. The cautious cub immediately moves toward her. The adventurous one is farther away. The leopard moves. Everything happens in seconds. Grass explodes into motion. The young badger turns. The mother rushes forward. The leopard has already reached the cub. The documentary does not need to show the attack in detail. Instead, The camera remains on the movement of the grass. A sudden growl, a desperate disturbance, then silence. The mother reaches the area moments later. The leopard retreats with its prize. For several seconds, she remains motionless. Then she follows the scent, but there is little she can do. A mature leopard is vastly larger and more powerful than a young honey badger. The mother advances only a short distance before stopping. The predator disappears into thicker vegetation. And just like that, the family of 3 has become 2. The surviving cub stays behind its mother. For the second time in its short life, one of its siblings is gone. But unlike the first loss, this cub is old enough to react to the sudden absence. During the following hours, it repeatedly searches the places where its sibling had been walking. It smells the ground. It pauses. It looks toward the grass. There is no return. The mother eventually begins moving again. The survivor follows. In the wild, there is no safe place where grief can pause the demands of survival. They still need food. They still need shelter. They still need water. And the night is coming. From this point forward, the relationship between mother and cub becomes even more important. The young honey badger is not yet ready to live alone. Its mother does not abandon it. She continues caring for the survivor through the natural period of development, remaining beside it for many more months. The lessons become more serious. When the mother detects the scent of a large predator, the cub watches her reaction. When she chooses another route, it follows. When she refuses to investigate something dangerous, the youngster learns that curiosity must sometimes surrender to caution. Its behavior begins to change. The cub is still playful, still stubborn, still fascinated by holes, insects, and strange smells, but now it hesitates more often before charging into unfamiliar grass. Experience is beginning to replace innocence. Months pass, the survivor grows, its claws become stronger, its body becomes heavier. It begins finding small prey without help. Sometimes the mother digs first, other times, the youngster detects the scent before she does. Then one evening, it uncovers a hidden meal entirely on its own. The mother watches from a short distance. She does not interfere. Something important has happened. The helpless cub that once followed her everywhere is becoming capable. But independence is still months away. Honey badger mothers may remain with their young for roughly a year or more, allowing them time to develop the complex skills needed to survive. And this mother will do exactly that. She will stay, she will teach, she will protect when she can, until the day her final cub no longer needs her. For now, however, the young survivor still follows her footprints across the savannah. Behind them lies loss, ahead lies uncertainty. And between the two lies the long education of survival. The surviving cub is no longer small. Months have passed since the leopard took its sibling, and the young honey badger now moves through the savannah with growing confidence. Its body is stronger, its claws are longer, its senses are sharper, but most importantly, it is still with its mother. She has not left. In the wild, young honey badgers can remain dependent on their mothers for roughly a year or more, often around 12 to 16 months. During this period, the mother does far more than protect her offspring. She teaches it how to live. Every night becomes a lesson. The two move mostly under the cover of darkness, when temperatures are lower and many prey animals become active. The mother walks with purpose, the youngster follows, sometimes closely, sometimes not closely enough. Its curiosity has survived everything. One evening, the cub catches the scent of something beneath a patch of hard soil. It stops, sniffs, then begins digging furiously. Dust flies behind it. The mother watches from several meters away. The youngster digs deeper, and deeper finally. Something moves. The cub jumps backward in surprise. A small rodent escapes from another opening and disappears into the grass. The young badger stares at the empty hole. The mother continues walking. The cub follows. Another failure, another lesson. Later that night, it discovers a hollow log. Immediately, its head disappears inside. Then its shoulders, only its back legs remain visible. For several seconds, nothing happens. Suddenly, the cub reverses out of the log much faster than it entered. A swarm of irritated insects follows. The youngster rolls in the dirt, shakes itself and runs. Its mother barely reacts. The savannah has taught this lesson before. Curiosity has consequences. But the young honey badger never seems to lose that curiosity completely. And that may be one of its greatest strengths. Honey badgers are opportunistic foragers. They investigate relentlessly. They dig beneath rocks. They search inside rotten wood. They inspect burrows. They follow scent trails that other animals might ignore. This persistence can lead them to food hidden where few competitors are willing to look. The cub begins to understand this. One night, it detects the scent of beetle larvae beneath compacted earth. The mother continues ahead. This time, the youngster stays. It digs. Several minutes pass. Then it finds them. Food, no assistance, no demonstration, no mother opening the ground first. The young badger eats. From nearby, the female watches. The lesson is changing. Before, she showed the cub what to do. Now she allows it to make decisions. Sometimes those decisions are terrible. The youngster once follows a large tortoise for several minutes, apparently fascinated by the moving shell. It circles the animal. sniffs it, scratches at the ground beside it. The tortoise continues moving at almost exactly the same speed. Eventually, the badger loses interest. Another evening, it investigates the abandoned burrow of an aardvark. Its entire body disappears underground. Moments later, it comes running back out. Something inside clearly objected to the visit. The documentary never reveals what it encountered. Only the cub seems to know. These strange episodes may look like mischief, but beneath the humor, something serious is happening. The youngster is building a mental map of its environment: safe places, dangerous places, good hunting grounds, water sources, axe routes, predator scents. The mother continues reinforcing those lessons. One afternoon, they detect lions resting near a waterhole. The young badger wants to approach. Its mother changes direction. The youngster hesitates, then follows. Months earlier, curiosity might have won. Now caution does. The difference is experience. The cub has learned that the honey badger's reputation for fearlessness does not mean reckless behavior. Even a tough animal survives by choosing its battles. As the youngster approaches 1 year of age, another transformation becomes obvious. It begins moving ahead of its mother. Sometimes it discovers food first, sometimes it chooses the route, sometimes the mother stops while the youngster continues exploring. The distance between them grows, not emotionally, biologically. The cub is reaching the age when dependence must slowly become independence. Still, the mother remains nearby. She has cared for the survivor through nearly its entire childhood, giving it the same prolonged period of learning that young honey badgers receive in nature. And there are still final lessons to learn. During one particularly warm evening, the youngster detects a sweet scent, honey. Somewhere ahead, bees are moving around a hollow tree. The badger approaches, carefully at first, then not carefully at all. It scratches at the bark. The bees respond immediately. The youngster retreats, then returns. Another wave of insects drives it back. The mother begins digging near the base of the tree, searching for another point of access. The cub watches. Instead of attacking the problem directly, she searches for a weakness. Eventually, the youngster joins her. Together, they widen an opening. The reward is small, but the lesson is enormous. Desperatence alone is not enough. Sometimes survival requires changing strategy. That lesson will matter soon, because the mother is beginning to behave differently. She no longer waits whenever the youngster falls behind. She no longer shares every discovery. Some nights, she disappears for short periods and returns later. The cub is being given more space, more responsibility, more silence. One morning, after almost 14 months of growing beside her, the youngster wakes and finds the den empty. It waits, then leaves. The mother's scent is still fresh, but instead of immediately following it, the young honey badger stops. It sniffs the air, looks across the savannah, and chooses another direction. For the first time, it is not simply following its mother. It is beginning to follow its own path. The final stage of its childhood has arrived. Soon, the last cub will have to survive alone. The savannah looks different when there is no one left to follow. For nearly 14 months, the young honey badger had lived beside its mother. She had shown it where to dig, what scents to trust, which sounds meant danger, when to defend itself, and when disappearing into the grass was the wiser choice. Now, for the first time, the young animal must make those decisions alone. There is no dramatic farewell, no final moment of recognition. In nature, independence often arrives gradually. The mother spends more time away. The cub begins traveling farther. Their paths separate more frequently, until one day, the youngster simply continues in another direction and does not return. This is not abandonment. It is completion. The mother's work is finished. The helpless newborn that once depended entirely on her has become a capable young honey badger. But knowing how to survive and actually surviving are not the same thing. The first nights alone are difficult. Every unfamiliar sound seems closer. Every movement in the grass demands attention. The youngster searches for food but repeatedly fails. It digs beneath one patch of earth and finds nothing, then another. Nothing. Hours pass. Hunger grows. Eventually, a scent catches its attention. Something small is moving underground. The young badger begins digging. This time, it does not rush. It circles the area first. It smells several openings, then chooses one. The soil begins flying behind it. Moments later, the effort is rewarded. A small prey animal is uncovered. Its first successful meal without its mother nearby. There is no celebration. The badger simply eats, then continues walking. That becomes its life. Meech, dig, investigate. Learn, meave. Days become weeks. The young honey badger establishes temporary sleeping sites and explores unfamiliar territory. Its powerful claws make shelter relatively easy to create. Sometimes it uses existing burrows. Other times it excavates its own. And wherever it goes, curiosity follows. One afternoon, it discovers a group of ground birds feeding near a tree. The badger approaches. The birds scatter. The youngster chases one for several seconds before realizing that running after flying animals is not an efficient strategy. Another day, it finds an old bone. It carries the object several meters, drops it, smells it, digs beside it. then apparently decides the bone is completely useless and walks away. The savanna offers no shortage of distractions, but the young badger is becoming more efficient. It recognizes old scent trails, remembers profitable feeding areas, avoids exposed ground during dangerous periods. Its mistakes become less frequent, its confidence becomes quieter. Then comes a reminder that even adulthood does not eliminate danger. Late one evening, the badger approaches a patch of woodland. A familiar smell reaches it. Leopard, the youngster, freezes. More than a year earlier, that scent had been connected to the disappearance of its sibling. Whether animals remember such events in the human sense cannot be known, but experience influences behavior. The badger does not investigate. It turns away. No challenge, no confrontation. It disappears into another part of the savanna. That decision may save its life. Courage, the documentary reminds us, is often misunderstood. Sometimes courage is standing your ground. Sometimes it is knowing that survival matters more than proving strength. The seasons continue changing. The young honey badger grows into adulthood. Its body becomes heavier and more muscular. The pale mantle across its back is now unmistakable. The awkward cub that once became stuck between rocks has become an accomplished digger. The youngster that chased insects without success now locates prey beneath the ground by scent. The animal that once followed every movement of its mother now travels alone through the night. And yet some things never change. It still investigates holes that probably should be ignored. It still turns over anything that might conceal food. It still approaches unfamiliar objects with stubborn curiosity. The troublemaker survived, not because it was invincible, not because nothing could hurt it, but because it learned. Then, one evening, the camera follows the adult badger toward a familiar part of the savanna. The landscape has changed. Rain has returned. New grass covers places that were once dry. The old den where 3 cubs began their lives is barely recognizable. Only a shallow depression remains. 3 were born. 1 was lost while still extremely vulnerable. A second disappeared to a leopard before reaching independence. And 1 remained. 1 had the time nature intended. Months beside a mother who protected, guided, and taught it until it was ready to survive alone. Now that final cub is no longer a cub. It walks beyond the old den and disappears into the grass. And perhaps there is something in that journey that reaches beyond wildlife. None of us can choose every loss that will enter our lives. We cannot control every danger, disappointment, or unexpected ending. But we can carry forward what experience teaches us. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to learn without allowing pain to end the journey. The honey badger did not survive because the savanna became easier. The savanna remained dangerous. What changed was the animal walking through it. And sometimes that is the greatest form of survival. Not waiting for the world to become easier, but becoming wiser, stronger, and more prepared with every step. Because even after the hardest chapters, there may still be another path ahead. And as long as we can keep moving, the story is not over. And so, beneath the vast African sky, the journey of a small honey badger becomes something much greater than a story of survival. He was born alongside 2 siblings. He experienced loss before he was old enough to understand the world around him. He spent more than a year beside his mother, learning where to search, when to hide, when to defend himself, and when to simply keep moving. In the end, he survived not because he was the strongest animal on the savanna, but because he learned, adapted, and never stopped moving forward. And perhaps that is the lesson nature leaves for us. Life will not always follow the path we imagined. There will be losses, there will be difficult seasons, there will be moments when the road ahead seems uncertain. But every challenge can leave behind knowledge, every fall can teach us something. And every new morning offers another opportunity to continue. If you enjoyed this documentary, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more extraordinary stories from the wild. And tell us in the comments, what lesson did the journey of this honey badger leave with you? Until the next documentary.